They shoved the weapon into her hands, and it rattled like loose bones. The wooden stock was cracked, the barrel scarred, the firing pin unreliable. Soldiers nearby smirked, whispering that she'd been set up to fail. Yet she wrapped her trembling fingers around the broken rifle anyway. Her heart pounded, not from fear of the weapon, but from the fact that the enemy commander, the man who had terrorized her village, was standing just across the courtyard, smug and untouchable. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. Her name was Alina. She had never asked to be here. She had been a medic, known more for her steady hands stitching wounds than for pulling triggers. But in war, fate does not ask for permission. When the commander's men stormed her camp, she was dragged into the open and mocked. "If you think you're strong, prove it," one sneered, tossing her the shattered rifle. Laughter rippled through the crowd. They expected her to break, to collapse in humiliation, but Alina's eyes did not lower. Inside, fear coiled tight. In her chest, yet something hotter flickered defiance. She remembered her brother, taken in the night by this same commander's orders. She remembered the families displaced, the children crying in silence. The broken rifle felt like an insult. Still, an insult can be turned into a weapon if the will behind it is strong enough. Dust swirled in the air, carried by a restless wind. The soldiers closed in, forming a circle, eager for entertainment. Alina lifted the rifle, its weight uneven, the sight bent. Her breathing slowed. Every instinct told her this was hopeless. But she thought of the commander's smirk, the arrogance in his stride. He believed no one could touch him. That belief was his weakness. She aimed not for his chest, not for his head. The broken sight would never allow a clean shot. Instead, she steadied the rifle on his ceremonial medallion, the one gleaming on his uniform. She squeezed the trigger. A harsh crack split the silence. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then the medallion shattered, the bullet ricocheting upward. Startled, the commander stumbled back. Gasps erupted from the watching soldiers. The ricochet had struck not flesh, but the buckle of his holster, knocking his pistol to the ground. The crowd froze. The commander's eyes widened, not in pain, but in disbelief. Alina did not hesitate. With a cry that tore from the deepest part of her, she surged forward. The broken rifle, useless for another shot, became a club in her hands. She swung with every ounce of rage and grief, striking his jaw, then his temple. The great commander who had made thousands bow, collapsed in the dirt before his men. Silence. Thick, suffocating silence. The kind where every breath feels stolen. Soldiers exchanged glances, unsure if they should intervene or kneel. And then, from somewhere in the crowd, a single clap. Another followed. Soon, the air trembled with applause, not for his fall, but for her courage. Yet in that roar of approval, Alina felt no triumph. She stared at the man unconscious at her feet and wondered, had she become like him, defined by violence? Or had she simply shown that justice sometimes wears a fierce face? The line blurred, and it shook her more than the act itself. But then she noticed the eyes of the people around her, civilians, soldiers, even children peeking from doorways. They were not looking at her with fear. They were looking at her with hope, and in that moment, Alina understood. She had not won by killing or conquering. She had won by proving that courage can rise even from the weakest hands, even from a broken rifle, because strength isn't in the weapon. It's in the one who dares to stand when standing seems impossible. Because kindness doesn't vanish. It waits, and it finds its way back. The courtyard where she had once stood humiliated now held the echo of applause, like a heartbeat that refused to die. The same air that had once carried dust now carried the weight of change. If you felt her courage, subscribe and share this story, and tell me, would you have dared to lift that broken rifle?